heavy wooden door groans, not just from age, but from the very breath of the life contained within. As it creaks open, the interior of this Manchester dwelling in 1625 reveals a scene utterly alien to our modern sensibilities. There are no clear divisions here, no distinct lines separating work from rest or shelter from sustenance. A young sheep, its wool still damp from the morning dew, is tethered near a rough-hewn wall, its soft bleating a constant comforting hum. Tools for spinning and weaving hang beside cured meats, while children, their faces smudged with soot and sleep, lie curled on straw pallets, oblivious to the subtle shuffle of hooves nearby. This house is not merely a home, it is a barn, a workshop, a vital survival unit. It is a microcosm of Manchester itself in the early 17th century. A place where the lives of humans and animals were inextricably intertwined, bound by the raw necessities of existence. This is a world before the roar of factories, before the smokestacks pierced the sky. It is a moment frozen in time, where every breath taken, every decision made, was a delicate balance against the harsh realities of the early modern age. If you appreciate documentaries that delve into the intricate tapestry of pre-industrial daily life and unearth the forgotten origins of our cities, consider subscribing to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Before the age of towering chimneys and sprawling industrial complexes, Manchester was a very different place. It was a small, semi-rural settlement, far removed from the bustling metropolis it would one day become. Its pulse beat to the rhythm of agriculture, with fields surrounding its modest cluster of buildings. Yet, even then, a quiet transformation was underway. The seeds of change were being sown in the proliferation of domestic weaving. Work was subtly shifting from the open fields, under the unpredictable sky, to the enclosed, often cramped spaces within the home. This meant more than just a change of scenery. It meant a fundamental alteration of daily life. Animals, once primarily confined to outdoor pens and pastures, increasingly shared living quarters with their human counterparts. A family's most valuable assets, a milk-giving goat, a wool-producing sheep, a sturdy pig, were brought indoors for protection. This created an intimate, almost symbiotic relationship. The warmth of their bodies helped stave off the biting chill of English winters, and their presence offered a rudimentary form of security against theft in a time when a lost animal could mean imminent starvation. These animals were, in essence, living insurance policies. A goat provided precious milk, a sheep offered wool for clothing and trade, and poultry supplied eggs. The loss of any one of these meant a direct and immediate threat to the family's survival. This stark economic reality overshadowed any abstract concerns about hygiene. The invisible risks, the fleas that leaped from animal fur to human skin, the parasites that thrived in shared spaces, the zoonotic diseases that could pass silently between species, were unknown and therefore unfeared. The simple, tangible calculation was clear. Immediate warmth, safety, and sustenance outweighed any uncertain, unseen future risks. The stench, the constant mess, the tight quarters. These were simply the cost of staying alive. The necessity of animals under the roof was a stark reality, but another vital resource, the well, presented its own complex paradoxes. It was more than just a source of water. It was the social hub, the central nervous system of the community's daily rhythm. Women, often with children clinging to their skirts or playfully jostling for position, would gather around the stone rim, their wooden buckets clanking against the sides. Here, amidst the mundane chore of drawing water, news was exchanged, gossip was shared, and the bonds of community were subtly reinforced. It was a brief respite from the relentless toil, a moment of connection in an otherwise isolated existence. Yet, this life-giving source was perilously close to the very elements that threatened it. The same ground that filtered water into the depths of the well also absorbed the detritus of daily life. Shallow latrines, dug out of necessity and often too close to the water table, allowed human waste to seep into the earth. Animals, free to roam just beyond the confines of the homes, deposited their waste indiscriminately. When the frequent Manchester rains came, they didn't just nourish the land. They acted as silent agents of contamination, washing pathogens from the surface directly into the soil and, inevitably, into the community's shared water supply. The concept of microbes was centuries away from understanding. The people of 1625 had no knowledge of these invisible enemies. All they knew were the sudden, inexplicable fevers that would sweep through families weeks after a particularly heavy rainfall, leaving behind a trail of sickness and often death. These were simply the harsh vagaries of life, attributed to bad humors or divine displeasure, never to the very water they drank. Survival also dictated a diet that, by modern standards, was austere and monotonous. The staple was typically a dark, coarse bread, often made from oats or barley, providing essential bulk and meager calories. Porridge, cooked from oats, was a common breakfast, sometimes enriched with milk if a family possessed a cow or goat. Meat was a rare luxury, reserved for special occasions or when an animal had reached the end of its productive life. Vegetables were seasonal and often homegrown, offering some vitamins but little variety. This limited diet fueled bodies that were constantly engaged in strenuous physical labor. From the dawn chorus to the fading light, the people of Manchester were ceaselessly active, weaving threads into cloth, carrying heavy buckets of water, tending to small plots of land, or caring for livestock. Every task demanded immense physical exertion. The human body was not just a vessel, it was the primary tool for survival, an irreplaceable engine of labor. An illness, a broken limb, or persistent fatigue was not merely an inconvenience. It was a catastrophic threat, as there was no substitute for one's own physical capacity to earn a living or sustain a family. Adding to these daily challenges was the relentless climate. Manchester's damp, often cold winters seeped into every crevice of the homes. Drafty roofs, constructed from thatch or rough-hewn timber, offered only partial protection, allowing the chill to penetrate. Floors, often made of compacted earth, remained perpetually damp, contributing to the pervasive cold and encouraging respiratory ailments. The fires, though providing some warmth, were inefficient and poorly ventilated. Smoke, along with the lingering odors of animals and dampness, often filled the interior, stinging eyes and lungs. Breathing in soot and animal exhalations for hours each day was simply part of existence, the grim alternative being the unforgiving cold of the outdoors. Yet even amidst these struggles, the first faint tremors of transformation were beginning to stir. Manchester, though still small, was witnessing the nascent stages of its textile production on a slightly larger scale. While there were no grand factories yet, the increasing number of looms in homes, the growing demand for spun threads, and the slow but steady expansion of local trade hinted at a future beyond mere subsistence farming. The town was experiencing a gradual, almost imperceptible urban growth. More houses were being built, and with them, more families, more animals, and consequently, more pressure on the existing infrastructure, particularly the precious yet precarious wells. The full-fledged industrial revolution was still a distant prospect, a future veiled by decades, but its vital seeds were unquestionably being sown in the humble animal-filled homes and the bustling water-drawing wells of 1625 Manchester. Manchester in 1625 truly stood at a unique crossroads, a place straddling two distinct eras with a precarious balance. It was a community still deeply rooted in the ancient rhythms of rural life, its existence dictated by the seasons, the fertility of the land, and the health of its livestock. Yet beneath this seemingly simple veneer, the subtle currents of change were already flowing, guiding it inexorably towards something far greater, something profoundly transformative. The very houses that, in 1625, harbored sheep and goats alongside their human inhabitants, providing warmth and sustenance, were the same structures that, in a few generations, would house the burgeoning workforce of the Industrial Revolution. The shared living spaces, once filled with the earthy scent of animals, would soon echo with the sounds of weaving looms and the chatter of factory workers. The contaminated wells, a silent source of sickness and death in this early modern age, would eventually give way to complex, engineered water systems, a testament to humanity's growing understanding of hygiene and public health. For now, however, survival remained an intimate, domestic affair, a daily struggle enacted within the confines of rough wooden walls, where every breath, every chore, every careful step was a testament to resilience. This journey into Manchester's past challenges the very image most of us hold of the city today. When one thinks of Manchester, the mind often conjures images of towering brick factories, their chimneys belching smoke into the grey English sky, a relentless testament to industrial might. We picture steam engines, bustling textile mills, and the thrum of machinery that once powered a global empire. But before that iconic smoke billowed, there was a profound silence, broken only by the rustle of straw underfoot and the soft bleating of a lamb. Before the relentless clang of machines, there was the much quieter, yet equally vital, sound of animals breathing alongside families, their bodies a shared source of warmth and life within cramped, humble abodes. It is a striking contrast, a vivid illustration of how profoundly a place can transform over centuries. Under those very same roofs, where children slept on straw mattresses beside their woolly companions, where the daily ritual of survival unfolded amidst the smells of humanity and livestock, the seeds of England's industrial history were being sown. It wasn't a grand, declared beginning, but a gradual, almost imperceptible shift. Each extra spindle added to a loom, each new family moving into the small town, each increment of pressure on the shared resources, contributed to the slow gestation of a new world. The decisions made out of necessity in 1625, bringing animals indoors, relying on common wells, enduring harsh conditions, were not just about surviving another day. They were, in a peculiar way, shaping the future of a city, and indeed a nation. The story of Manchester before the smoke is a powerful reminder that monumental change often begins in the most ordinary, unassuming places, driven by the everyday lives of ordinary people. It is a narrative of adaptation, hardship, and the relentless human spirit to not just exist, but to endure and, eventually, to build. This deep dive into Manchester's early modern life is just one chapter in the countless stories waiting to be unearthed. If you've been fascinated by this glimpse into a world where communities grappled with the raw elements of survival, where the line between human and animal life was intimately blurred, and where the origins of our modern cities lie hidden in plain sight, then consider subscribing. Join us as we continue to explore how small communities transformed into the industrial powerhouses we recognize today, uncovering the many hidden stories that existed long before the smoke of modernity obscured them. There are countless more tales of resilience, ingenuity, and surprising connections between our past and present, waiting for us to discover them together.